Hi guys, and welcome back to another segment. We have started our third unit. It's known as the rise of medieval Europe, but let's be real, we're breaking it down into the High Middle Ages and those feudal changes, the Crusades, and then we're going to move on to the Late Middle Ages and talk about the advancements heading towards that Renaissance, that modern historical era. Okay, so what is different about the High Middle Ages, or really the evolution? Well, let's take a look. So this is what I call changes in feudal Europe. How is feudalism evolving, changing? Really, there's a slow decline. You're going to see a middle class will form. The serf begins to change their role. They're less bound to the land because the manors grow overcrowded due to agricultural improvements. And they start earning wages by specializing in trades, unique trades, and making money. Okay, and slowly we're going to have a middle class grow of artisans and merchants. And kings are going to grow more reliant on that class because there's a concentration of wealth and less on nobility and the lords. And this slow decline, right, or change shift in the feudal structure is one of the highlights of the High Middle Ages. So we're going to cover that first. Then we're going to get into the kings of the High Middle Ages. And then we'll talk about the Crusades. So let's roll. So, by the early Middle Ages, right, or by the 900s, you're going to see this agricultural revolution will happen in the 8 and 900s. So by 900, separate feudal territories, right? Everyone's living on the manorial system, right, in feudalism. No trading. These manors are self-sufficient. Everything is being made, grown, cultivated on the manor. Now, the High Middle Ages, okay, 1,000 to around 1200s, okay, that time period of the Crusades, those 200 years or so. By the High Middle Ages, because of this population doubling, and you'll see by 1300s, the population will triple. Okay, so by the High Middle Ages, there's a revival of trade. Okay, we'll talk about that and those effects. And you'll see trade fairs will begin. And territories, right, will begin to trade and depend on each other. Now, by the late Middle Ages, okay, where trade fairs become really the first medieval cities, and separate feudal territories combine to become larger kingdoms, okay, that's when you'll see the real rapid decline of feudalism as, again, we don't need knights. We'll see the 100 Years' War, and we'll see, eventually we'll shift away from the knight and heavy armor, advancements in the cannon and the longbow, and instead it's going to be more of, a military, a standing army. Okay, let's talk about the agricultural revolution of the 800s. The four advancements, and they might not seem like advancements or technology to you, but these are advancements for the 800s. By the 900s, the population has doubled in Europe, the entire continent, because of this. So here they are. They're going to change, or I should say exchange, wooden plows for iron. Last longer, more sturdy, gets the job done quicker, faster, more efficient. So replacing wooden plows with iron. That's number one, and there's no particular order. Number two, you're like, Cook, how is a horse, right, an advancement? Because they're going to start using horses, right, a special kind of stirrup will be made so people can ride horses more readily, and you're going to see that's going to help. Okay, if horses are, pulling the plows, right, instead of oxen, horses are faster than oxen. Oxen are much slower, or ox, okay? So the horse is going to replace oxen, okay? And there's the new stirrup invention for riding for transportation and pleasure. Okay, so that's the second. The third, right, is this three-field system. Okay, yes, prior to this, they only had a two-field system. They didn't have this field 3 that was empty. Okay, when you have now 3 fields, 1 wheat, Okay, another grain, barley, or let's say one wheat, one bean, perhaps legumes, which adds protein to the diet. Okay, and then you have that third field, right? You are, helping refertilize the soil, right? And again, you alternate. So this three-field system is an improvement and will grow more food, right? You're going to see that's why the population doubles. This three-field system is really a huge advancement from the two-field system. I know, guys. Last but not least, the usage of wind and water mills. Okay, that is going to be a huge, technological upgrade as sources of power, especially water mills. Okay, and then eventually windmills. Okay, early on though, water mills at the mill house. So what are the effects? More food equals more people. It's that simple. By the 900s, right, Europe's population doubles. By the late Middle Ages and the start, the 1300s, it will triple. So yes, that's 5 times the population since 800 with this agricultural revolution. The first agricultural revolution.
Here's what I found.
Okay. So when the population doubles by 900s, okay, and the thousands, these manors grow overcrowded. There's not enough spaces and, spots for people. And again, now the manors, they're no longer self-sufficient. They can't keep up with the population. Manors are too crowded. People start leaving the manor. Peasants and serfs start specializing in trades and making money. So these manors are no longer 100% self-sufficient. They need trade, and they start trading. Separate feudal territories will start trading with each other by the High Middle Ages. This trading takes place, right, along major rivers or, water routes, land routes. Why? It's easy to get to. Is it easy to host a trade fair at the top of a mountain in the Scottish Highlands? No. Okay, but London? Much easier. Much more navigable, right? You can just sail up the river. So these trade fairs, the revival of trade, right, will happen at trade fairs because there's a need and demand for more goods. Again, the population has doubled by the 900s. By the 1300s, it's tripled. That's a huge population boom. So these trade fairs are found, like I said, along major rivers and water routes, land routes. They're easy to get to, and these locations, these trade fairs, become the first medieval cities. So what is the effects of this revival or reawakening, right? People trading again. What are the effects? Well, like I said, manors grow overcrowded, right? And peasants, they start specializing in trades. It's known as the specialization of labor, a fancy way of saying that peasants and serfs begin to specialize in unique trades like shoemaking or being a baker, a blacksmith. Shoemaking is a cobbler, by the way. Weavers and tailors, right? Silversmiths, stonemasons. Okay, the list goes on and on. Silversmiths. I already said that, I think. I should actually read the slides instead of just thinking I have it all up here. Okay, and I'm showing you examples here, right? We got a baker, a stonemason, okay, a blacksmith. And don't get me wrong, these trades, this work was tough work. But then they started making money, okay? And then with that money, they could start paying rent. And a money system, right? An economy will again happen. Okay, so manoralism's no more. Their manors are overcrowded. We'll start to see a money economy. It's known as the commercial or economic revolution, this reappearance of money back into Europe. The economy is changing. People need to organize and make more money. Okay, and like I have this visual description, cities have been around since the Roman times, but many of them were abandoned. But however, during this time period with this population surge due to a surplus in food, thanks to the agricultural revolution, these old Roman cities will reemerge as trade centers. The trade centers, right, will develop into the first medieval cities. They'll also have new trading centers. Some of them are in Italy. There's an area in northern France known as Flanders. It's like a territory, famous for its wool, cloth, textile industry. And Venice was a very populated center for trade because it would trade with the Byzantine Empire and Islamic societies. And so it had all the best stuff, the spices, the silks, all the goods. And you'll learn about the Silk Road. Okay, 3 new business practices emerge. What are they? Number 1, guilds. Guilds are merchant partnerships that team up to make more money. Okay, so if Trevor and Malia are both cobblers or shoemakers, Malia's shoes are better quality, but they're more expensive. Okay, Trevor makes cheaper shoes, but you have to replace them every 2 years. Okay, they're, competing for business here. So instead, why not team up together, right? 2 merchants teaming up together to make more money, and they form a guild. And guilds will grow and form, right, as powerful, trained groups of craftspeople, whether, we're talking about, a blacksmithing guild or, a stonemason guild. Okay, but they're trained craftspeople who maintain control over the production of whatever that good is, whatever their trade is, their specialization. They regulate the competition. They basically eliminate it because it's guild or else. Okay, and they regulate prices. Okay, and they restrict the entry of new people into those trades. So they get to pick like who can enter that shoemaker's guild. Now, guilds during this time period basically is given monopoly rights. You can, produce and trade in specific products by the rulers. These rulers, whether they were like dukes, right, and lords or kings, they allowed the guilds to kind of run the show. And so you see, this is how the middle class grows. Second new business practice, insurance. You know what insurance is. We have so many versions or variants of insurance, and it's going to stem right from this time period, paying for security in case something happens. So let's say Miss Cook is a blacksmith, and I'm going to put all of my weapons, all of my swords, and all of my knight gear, my helms and helmets, everything on a wagon, and I'm going to, travel from Verdun to Paris, France. Well, along the way, what if someone robs me, right? I get raided. There goes all of my goods. So if I pay, I have insurance on those goods, like many smart middle-class merchants will do, and artisans, okay, especially the guilds. They pay, right, to insure or protect the goods in case something, right, has been lost. And you get a portion of a profit back, so not everything is lost. So insurance, we have homeowners insurance, car insurance, renter's insurance, pet insurance, dental insurance, health insurance, boat insurance. There's so many types of insurance. Lots. The third new business practice is really going to develop into the first type of banking system, or it's called, right, bills of exchange. So up until this time period, people were so used to actual coin. But coin's really easy, again, to rob and steal. So what will happen is it was a paper cash substitute for the coin. So let's say I made money in Verdun, okay? I'm going to deposit my money, and I'm going to get a bill of exchange notarized, right, that lists the amount. So I'm going to get a bill of exchange at Verdun, and I'm going to travel to Paris, France. When I get to Paris, I'm going to hand that bill of exchange, okay, and I'm going to get my money. Okay, and so I have here paper cash substitutes, right? Guilds and companies will, banks eventually will form, and it gave paper to a customer with that given amount, and it was notarized for that given amount. And so you could drop your money off in one trade fair center, get a bill of exchange, and then pick it up in another. And this bill of exchange system will develop into the first banks. So like I've been emphasizing and trying to stress to you guys, the role of the peasant and serf is changing. Okay, they're no longer bound to the land. Manors have grown overcrowded. They're no longer working for protection and shelter. Okay, feudalism is on a slow, gradual decline. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why. Because the role of the serf is changing. They're no longer working, right, for free, for protection and labor. Doing the hard manual jobs, the hard manual labor without any benefit other than protection and shelter. Okay. Instead, thanks to this population surge, especially by the 1300s, these serfs are now making money, specializing in unique trades. And what will happen? A new middle class will form and grow. As a result, a new middle class emerges of these merchants, these artisans, these traders, right? Right, in that shoemaking guild. And what will happen is it changes the feudal structure. Okay, it changes the feudal structure. Here I have middle class, and I didn't really put knights in this feudal structure because I'm trying to emphasize to you that this middle class, we have unskilled peasants and serfs, and now we have a middle class where we have skilled peasants and serfs making money. And when you put them all together, there's a lot more of peasants and serfs, right, that are skilled than there are, right, lords, vassals, right, knights, or even the king. So as a collective group, this middle class will have a concentration of wealth, a large amount of money in that middle class. And eventually the middle class is going to start demanding more power. It only makes sense. So the feudal structure, right, is evolving and shifting. The power of the king is going to rise, especially as separate feudal territories begin to trade with each other, right, and kings begin to form, like the King of England and France. We'll talk about German kings and princes. The power of nobles is starting to decline. Why? Kings are going to grow more reliant on this middle class because they have a concentration of wealth or a collective large sum or amount of money. That doesn't mean nobility isn't going to exist. It still exists, still right below the king. They're still locally ruling over, but the middle class all together, collectively, have grown quite powerful. All right, I'm going to end. We'll talk about the Silk Road, okay, next class. I hope you enjoyed. I'm turning this into an Edpuzzle, so hope you were paying attention.